Hello everybody, my name is Joel and this is my lunchtime walk talk, and it's something that I've been doing for a little while. Today is Sunday, June 10th, and I'm walking on the Blacklick Creek Trail, and I believe this is Canal Winchester where I'm at right now, or Reynoldsburg or Pickerington. It's one of those places close to where I live because I didn't really want to drive very far. And I want to kind of just take a walk. And we'll see those people again in a second because the trail is going to end. So I just walked through a section that was all torn up and all muddy, and so basically this trail ends. This is what happens, and they could try to go through it, but they're going to make a mess of their bikes. So it's a beautiful day, a little overcast. It's only in the 70s. It's a lot better than yesterday, because yesterday it was up in the 90s. It was like 91 degrees when I was walking, and I walked 9.18 miles, which is a little bit longer than I intended, but I was able to do it, and I wish I had brought more water with me because that would have been better. One of the interesting things was that by near the end, the last mile and a half or so, I noticed that my hands were like swollen, and they felt like, you know, that song Comfortably Numb, when he goes, his hands felt like two big balloons. That's pretty much the feeling that I had. And when I put my hands above my head, it would relieve it. It wasn't painful, it was just uncomfortable. And what was so weird about it was that it just, you know, I was thinking that something was wrong with me, you know, health-wise. I'm like, oh my God, you know. And I looked it up, and it's actually normal. Because what happens when your body overheats, it's trying to dissipate the heat, so it opens up the floodgates in all your vessels. So really what it means is that my body is healthy, and it's trying to get rid of all that excess heat that it has. And the hands and arms are a great way to do that, evidently. So the good news was, and as the article said, you know, that I read, that within minutes after finally getting to my car, it just dissipated on its own. You know, as soon as I got my AC on and I started cooling off, literally within a minute or two, I noticed that it was just gone. So I'm really happy about that, to be honest. And if I experience that in the future, I won't get scared, but I kind of know how to deal with it now, which is really good. This is supposed to be a very hot summer, and just as I predicted, we would see those two people again. It's supposed to be a very hot summer, and it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me to be getting out there and walking. I'm wearing a backpack now, carrying some water with me, and because I have the gimbal and everything, I just want to have a place to put it so that when I get to where I stop videoing, I have a place to put it. So I've been thinking about what I want to talk about when I go on these walks, and I think I kind of am meandering a little bit, not really sure about what direction I want to go in. I tend to do that a little bit. As I said before, you know, when you live your life with intention, then you know what you're doing. But if you're not, then you're just being impulsive and whatnot, and it just kind of feels like, oh, what am I gonna do? What am I doing next? And that's kind of the feeling I have right now, because I don't really have a plan in place. I had a plan, but I lost that plan. So I need to sit down and kind of come up with a plan and figure out what I'm going to talk about. I've been thinking about, something that one of my friends said the other day about relationships. She was saying that OA, Overeaters Anonymous, has taught her what it looks like to have healthy conflicts. That's an interesting statement because I don't do well with conflict, and I'm a firm believer that OA is the 12 steps in the program of recovery that I'm in is all about learning how to stop eating compulsive overeating. That's the focus. Okay, all that binging and other behaviors, the grazing and the nutty things that I do, the eating of the wrong food, mostly the foods that that I crave, which are like sugar and heavy carbs and diet sodas and stuff like that I really, really want, and it's just flat out unhealthy for me now. And so today I don't do any of that, but part of eliminating those cravings is figuring out what those cravings were about. What were the purpose of those cravings? Was it just because I really liked that stuff? Or was it an emotional response to something, a coping technique that I was using to deal with my feelings? And when I first came into OA, I was just like, well, I liked food. I don't understand what the big deal is. And it took me a while to realize that it was really causing a big problem in my life because I was diagnosed diabetic and had blood pressure problems and cholesterol problems, and I was just basically unhealthy, extremely unhealthy. And I can live in denial. That was my choice. But I didn't want to live in denial. I wanted to live healthy. I wanted to live a good long life. And I wanted to have some kind of purpose in life, and I didn't really feel it at that time. I didn't really understand that whole concept of having purpose. And it took me a long time to understand that the emotional response that I was having was I was trying not to feel. So I would eat really to not feel. I didn't want to feel at all. I just flat out wanted to be numb. And so it worked for the most part when I would eat, and then the feeling of fullness, the feeling of, and there is joy in eating, and there is definitely temporary joy in eating, but then eventually you get to a point where you can't eat anymore and you just feel sick. But the truth is it's really not that much different than back in my younger days when I used to burn and cut myself, and I would have that pain, that feeling of fullness and the pain of the gut and the pain in the back and in my back, and that nausea that I would experience is really not that much different, because really what it comes down to is that feeling is more concrete than that feeling, that fuzzy feeling of complete utter despair, which I hate. I hate the feeling of misery and all that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of why I found myself going to OA. All right, so where am I going with this? Well, in the long term, I have come to realize that much of the problem that I was having was problems in relationships. Oh, look at this.
Okay, go to sleep.
Yeah, that's cute and miserable at the same time. Sorry about that. So, yeah, so, a lot of times, when I was by myself, and I actually really preferred to be by myself. At the time, back in those days, there was one thing that I liked to do. Well, a couple things. I liked watching TV by myself. I liked going to the movies. And I preferred to go with other people, but I also discovered that going by myself didn't kill me. And then third, reading books. And being an introvert, what I found is that those worlds that I would immerse myself into were highly preferable to the real world. I never really got into gaming much, but I could see how gaming is also the same kind of allure, where while you're doing that and you're killing other people or solving puzzles or, I like games. I do play games on my phone. I have this one game called Dickie's Adventure, which is very immersive, but I could play it for a little while at a time and then I just put it down and I do other things. And also things like social media like Facebook and Tumblr and so many of them out there, these social networks are just ways of distracting yourselves from reality. And being real, being present, being part of this universe is, for many people, and especially for myself, was very difficult. Because when I was real, when I was in the world, I just found just a lot of disappointment and a lot of feeling of utter failure and just a feeling of, why am I even doing this? So that begs the question, why am I even doing this? What is the purpose of it all? And that I asked that question over and over again, and it only got me really depressed, chronically depressed. And it took me a long time, lots of therapy, drugs that I was prescribed, and extra help. And then, of course, I came in the program because I started using food. Well, I wasn't starting. I used it for a long time. But I used food as a way of numbing myself out. And it was all to hide myself from how dysfunctional my life was and how I dealt with life. And that very much came down to relationships. I did not handle conflict at all well. Conflict to me was very painful, and I avoided it. I avoided anything that would make me feel bad about me. And avoiding became my number one shtick. And one great way of avoiding things is to get myself busy doing other things. And one thing that I had a lot of pleasure in was eating. And so I pursued it. I pursued it with a true dedication. As anybody who had a passion, who has a passion of like art or music or ballet or, when you have a true passion for something, you're going to pursue it because it gives you enjoyment and pleasure and that kind of thing. So, so that's what OA has done for me. So I really appreciate what my friend said yesterday, that OA, or Readers Anonymous, has taught her, modeled for her, what healthy conflict looks like, what healthy disagreement looks like. That's an interesting thought. It is possible to have healthy boundaries with people, and it is possible to have healthy disagreements with people and not become a major conflict. And what I mean by that is that, you know, it is okay to sometimes give in. We have a slogan, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Now I appreciate that. I appreciate that slogan, but it's only part of the story. Being right is really not that important. You know, there are times, however, standing up for yourself is really important because people want what they want, and they want it when they want it, and they have an agenda. And if it means stepping all over you, they're going to do it because ultimately people are selfish, self-centered, and inconsiderate. They may not want to believe that, but that's the way most people are. Have they always been that way? I don't know. I can't time travel. I remember growing up in an environment where there was some generosity, and people that I knew, there was some generosity and love and all that. So I'm convinced that people will be generous and be loving and be all that kind of good stuff that we talk about, like called kindness and friendliness, and when it suits them, when it's part of their agenda, when it makes them feel good about themselves. Because ultimately that selfishness, that self-centeredness, and that inconsiderateness that people do, it's because they're just trying to feel good about themselves. That's it. That's in the end, everybody just wants to feel good about themselves. Nobody wants to go through life with shame. Shame sucks. Nobody wants to go through life being really angry, though a lot of us do. We are just really angry. I spent a good portion of my life just unbelievably angry. And I had to let that shit go. I had to forgive. Okay? And in fact, what I come to discover is that the real solution to all my problems came on my focus. And when I focus on my higher power and doing what he wants me to do, and I'm connected to him, I do well. And I'm flowing with the universe. It's like that river is going, the universe is flowing, it's in constant motion, and when you flow with it, and instead of fighting it, and that shouldn't stop you from being creative and being, going after what you want. You just do it within the framework of what the universe is presenting you at the moment. Because, the universe will, I'm not going to say it conforms to anybody. It's actually quite harsh. The universe, however, is it's not a bad place and it's not a good place. I mean, that's really all I can say is that, it's going to give you something that you are living within, and your choice is either to accept that or not accept that. And if you don't accept that, then it's up to you to change. But when you try to conform and make the universe more acceptable to you, it's just, it's sort of like banging at a wall. Now, you can move a mountain one stone at a time. It is possible. If you're persistent and you're around long enough, you can do that. However, and there's nothing wrong with that, you're not going to be able to pick up that entire mountain and move it, though. Okay? There are people out there who truly believe that if you believe in something strong enough, the universe will conform. There's a saying, I'm not really 100% sure where it came from. It goes something like this, that if Muhammad can't move the mountain, Muhammad needs to go to the mountain. Okay? And there's some real truth in that, if you want to get to a mountain and you can't move that whole mountain, then you're better off just walking to that mountain. Just go there, fly there, drive there. The mountain's too big. It's a gravity problem. A gravity problem is a problem that we have that is immutable. You can't change it. You can't change gravity. You can work within the frameworks of it. So you can create wings or propellers or rockets that will, or balloons that will help you rise up within that framework and basically, fly, but you cannot change gravity. Gravity is gravity, and no matter what you do, it's unbendable, unmutable. And it's actually a very weak force. It just takes a lot of mass to create a lot of gravity, which is what we feel every day. And so, it's sort of like you deciding, I'm going to move the entire Earth out of its orbit. You can't do that. It's impossible. That's a gravity problem. A gravity problem is something you can't change. Moving a mountain is something you can't change unless you have an awful lot of time on your hand, or you have the means and the money to have all that equipment that you're going to need to dig that mountain out, blow it up, cart it over to where you want to put it, and rebuild it up. We're talking billions of dollars. Now, you could do it if you can, if you have that, but if you don't, then you have a gravity problem. It's a simple thing. So, how you react to it is really kind of where the problem comes in. What are you going to do? Are you going to cry over it and fight against it? See, now, that's where we get back to relationships. So you're in a relationship with somebody. That person wants to do X, Y, Z. You don't want to do that. You get into a conflict with that person. Okay? Now, that conflict can be healthy. In other words, you can discuss it, or you can make the decision that you'd rather be happy than right and just give in, or you can try to persuade to a limit. But getting angry, screaming, ranting, raving is not going to do you any good whatsoever. It is only going to give you misery. And that's it. It's just going to give you pain. And so, so that's the big question, It's like, how are you going to live your relationships? If you're going to be angry or have regrets or be afraid of somebody, that's just going to cause you to, since you really want to feel good about yourself, do something about it. And that could be distracting yourself from those feelings, shoving those feelings deep, deep down inside, which eventually they build up because we're like batteries. We keep storing those feelings. They don't go anywhere. Eventually, those feelings of pain build up to a point where the battery's full, and then they just start coming out in all sorts of ways, and you act out, and it affects everything, your perception. This is what I call our shadow. Our shadow is like a big mist that's around you, okay? And it's all of that anger and fear and shame that you are holding on to. And it's even some of that sadness that you have inside you from the loss of people, things, disappointments in your life. And all of this is around you all 100% of the time. And it's all being fueled by that battery, all those feelings and those dysfunctional beliefs that you have inside you. And what the problem is it's sort of like a mist of water. When you look through all the little droplets, it distorts what you're seeing. So you start seeing the world through the prism of those feelings, that shadow. And I call it a shadow because it literally dims the universe. And I saw the world through such dark lenses. I could see nothing but pain and misery. And honestly, I didn't want to live it. I tried to kill myself twice. And then I tried to make myself sick. I tried to just get out of living. I didn't want to deal with it. Today, It's very different. I am alive. I'm just doing one day at a time, putting one foot in front of another, trying to stay healthy, and I'm actually, for the most part, doing it. Staying abstinent, which means not eating sugar and copious amounts of carbs and the wrong foods, just fatty, super fatty, bad foods, and not drinking diet sodas or any sodas for that matter. And though I'll do a carbonated drink, as long as it has no sugar, no sweetener of any kind in it. I'll do that once in a blue moon. Like I'll have club soda, it's got salt in it, but I'll have club soda once in a while, or seltzer water, but not frequently. Doing things with moderation is a real struggle sometimes. But when I do things in moderation, I feel better about me. And again, that's what the bottom line is. It's about me feeling better about me. So when I get into conflicts, having those healthy boundaries in place, I'm willing to do X, Y, Z, but I'm not willing to do all this other stuff. And you won't treat me in this way that you want to treat me. I'm going to, not deal with you. That's really the only response to somebody who is treating you poorly. Just stop dealing with them. And you may be entwined with that person, but there are ways to stop dealing with them on very subtle ways. And you can detach on very subtle ways. And they can go off and do their own thing, but at the same time you can do your thing and find some level of peace and happiness in your life and still be that loving person that you are, because that's really who we really all are. We're made of love. We are love. We are express love. The source, the higher power that is behind every religion, everything that's out there is of love. And if we could just be loving with each other and be that expression of God and the universe, of where we all came from, then life would be peaceful. In fact, I'm going to say that every time somebody comes back to being their true selves, being of love, then it's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle. That's what a miracle is. We somehow got separated from all that. We don't need to be separated from any of that. So, yeah, I agree with my friend. OA has definitely taught me and modeled for me how to do healthy disagreements, what healthy conflict looks like. And so that I can do conflict and do disagreements and have boundaries and not eat compulsively. And so I guess that's what my subject is today is, I don't know, how would you sum this up? So, I mean, if I was to sum this topic up, I would probably say, I don't know, being healthy, being what recovery is. Yeah, you see, but it's only part of the picture. I don't know, I have to think about that. Anyway, my friends, I hope you have a wonderful and great day. It's almost to the point where I need to turn around. I'm pretty sure that I need to check and look and see how far I've come and how far I need to go. So my goal today is to walk 3 miles, a lot less than 9.5 miles. I'm thinking about going to see Deadpool 2 today. If I don't make Deadpool 2, which is at 2:30, I might go see Han Solo, which is a good fullback position. That's at 3:15. So that gives me a little bit more time. But I am going to go to the movies today. It's supposed to rain later today. glad I got my walk in. It's actually, the sun came out and it's kind of bright. I bet it's in the 80s now. I'm kind of sweating. So have a great, wonderful day, and I will do another lunchtime walk tomorrow. Love you guys.